here with you. And let me go ahead and introduce this fantastic speaker. Ophelia is a front end engineer at Ejara, where she enjoys building beautiful, functional, and scalable front end apps that interact with blockchain technologies. Coming from a non tech background, she's passionate about helping others get started and fall in love with the web. So, Ophelia, over to you. And yeah, I hope you have a great session.
Thank you so much, Ashana. Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here, and thanks for joining this talk. So, we're going to talk about how to excite and retain users with your website or app's performance. A little bit about myself. So, Ashana has done a great job as introducing me. I'll just touch on a few more things. So, I'm a technical writer as well, because I contribute to open source, and I basically like to simplify web concepts for beginner developers. I'm also on a mission to get more women started and upskilled in tech. So let's get straight into the talk. Okay, so I've basically put the key takeaways for this talk into three main pointers. We're going to look at the role that web and app performance plays in user retention and business strategy. We're also going to we're also going to look at how to measure and interpret performance metrics and the tips to optimize resources and boost performance of your websites and application. Before we proceed, I'd like to know if how many of us have had any experience with performance. Just let me know in the chat, and then I'll read a few out. But let's look at this scenario. So imagine that after a long work day, you rush to the grocery shop to pick up ingredients for dinner, and you call on one of the attendants to help you with the location of an item, right? And instead of going straight to the point and answering your question, she decides to take a sheet of paper, a pen, and then write clues for you so that you can take a guess at the response to your own question. You know, I don't know about you, but that would make me very, very frustrated if I were to be in the shoes of this shopper. Okay. And in the same way, you know, that is exactly how users feel when they come onto your website and it's slow and they don't get exactly what they want when they need it. Users hate slow websites. And if your website doesn't go straight to the point, first of all, it wastes their time. And with especially users that have very little time to spare, okay, they would most likely leave the website, hop onto something else, get distracted. And that is exactly what, as a web developer, you're trying to avoid. Now, I want to know the definition that you would give to web performance before I give you my definition. So just go ahead, drop in your chat your definition for web performance whilst I read what I have here. So web performance has been defined generally by MD on Web Docs as the objective measurement and perceived user experience of a website or application. And basically, web performance is measuring how fast and how well a website or app works and how good it feels to use it. It's also measuring how long a site takes to load, become interactive, responsive, how smooth the content is during user interactions. And some of the questions that web performance seeks to answer is the scrolling smooth enough? Are buttons clickable? Etc. And when we talk about measuring both objectively and subjectively, okay, we are looking at metrics that some may be constant and generally accepted. And there are others that we'll learn about that are unique to the users, which we term as the perceived performance. And okay, I see Gabriela says that performance is equal to speed and accessibility and ease of use. Yes, that is another definition of web performance. So throughout this talk, we are going to look at those metrics that we can easily measure, and even those ones that are unique to the users. And we are going to look at how we can either optimize or make the users think that the website is performant. Okay, Mary says that speed, intuitive design, easy to navigate, pleasant. Awesome. Thank you. Now, with the definition of web performance, you may want to know, okay, now I know the definition of web performance, but why should I care? We should try to make our websites fast or seem fast for numerous reasons. Good performance may not be obvious to most site visitors, but they'll immediately notice a bad or slow ones. I don't know how many of us have gone onto a website and that was super fast and have immediately like noticed how fast it was. On the other hand, if you went onto a website and it was slow, as soon as that what we call the wait time, just clicks, you'd be able to measure unconsciously and then say, no, this site is slow. So that is what we are going to learn how to avoid, so that when users come onto our website, they can have a very smooth experience, which would in effect improve the user experience on our website. Now let's look at a few case studies. Okay, um, there are a number of case studies out there of a lot of businesses that have benefited immensely from improving their web performance. But for purpose of this talk, we are going to look at four popular businesses. So we have Walmart, we have Amazon, we have Yahoo, and then we have Bing. Yes, Daniela says that she has often closed out websites if they are too slow, and then she'll find something else. That's very normal. So for Walmart, Walmart saw a 2% increase rate for every second of improvement in website load time. For Amazon, they saw that 100 millisecond improvement in website load time led to a 1% increase in sales. Yahoo also found that a 400 millisecond improvement in website load time led to a 9% increase in traffic. And finally, we see that Bing had a 2 second improvement in web. Saw that percent, a 2 second improvement in website load time led to a 4.3% increase in revenue per user. And it's amazing how something as small, as improving your site speed or load time by 2 seconds can actually lead to 4.3% increase in revenue per user. That's really mind blowing if you ask me. And for web developer, this is what we should be aiming at. Okay, ours isn't just to build web applications. We should look at making sure that the applications that we build are ones that would contribute to the revenues that are being generated by our companies. Now, this is a quote that I really love that says that good performance is an asset, bad performance is a liability. And I think that it sums up everything that we are going to talk about in this talk and beyond. So if there's one thing that I'm hoping sticks with most of us long after this talk is done, it's this quote that good performance is an asset and bad performance is a liability. Now we move on to the importance of performance. As I mentioned earlier, the importance of having a performant web application is just phenomenal, right? The ones that are listed here are just, I would say, a tip of the iceberg. But I picked these ones specifically because these are ones that I think covers almost every other importance there is out there. Now, we all agree that users hate slow websites. Okay, over the years, our websites have gotten bigger and heavier because, as we know, there are packages that are becoming more more like bulky. There are content that we put on our websites that are taking more and more space. But what we have to take note of is that the user's expectations are not increasing to meet the timing that should go with the heavier website. Instead, users' expectations are decreasing, and the time that they a user would normally wait for a website to load is becoming smaller as the years go by. Okay, and we know that with more content available on the internet right now, users are easily distracted, right? So if a site, they go onto a website which doesn't load within a reasonable time frame, the user's impatience timer begins. And once that timer runs out, the user just abandons that website and may visit a competitor's website instead. And as a web developer, you just want to avoid that situation as much as possible. So for sales, we see that 79% of customers report dissatisfaction with website performance, are less likely to buy from the same site again. So for mobile users, 64% of smartphone users expect pages to load in less than 4 seconds. For customer experience, 47% of customers expect a web page to load in 2 seconds or less. And conversion, a 1 second delay means a 7% reduction in conversion. And that's if you are in the marketing department or you work in marketing, that is something that would definitely scare you. So taking a cue from Peter Drucker's quote, you can't improve what you don't measure. I'll say that if we aim at improving performance of our web applications, then we ought to learn to measure it. And there are many different metrics and frameworks for measuring web performances, but we'll look at about 3 of the most popular for now. We have perception reaction time, we have the real performance model, and the core metrics. If you're familiar with any of these, I'll just like to know what you think about them as we proceed. Now, let's look at real versus perception reaction times. So for the real, so real is basically a structure, okay, for thinking about performance and a model that breaks UX into actions that can be measured. And it's mainly thought about as a user-centric performance model. And it provides a structure for thinking about performance. So you can see that it breaks it down into response, animation, idle, and load. And basically it's saying that when you are building web applications, you should be able to put your expectations, okay, under these 4 main points so that you can set goals accordingly for how you want your application to respond, for animation load time and the load time generally of the website. Also, we can see here that according to research by Wetware, the users react, according to delay times. And the delay time from 0 to 100 milliseconds, and the user's reaction is instant, which is okay, there's nothing wrong. From 100 to 300 milliseconds, now there's a slight perceptible delay. From 300 to 1000 milliseconds, which is almost a second, now the user is beginning to see that there's something wrong. From 1000 plus millisecond, which is more than 1 second, this user is now beginning to have a mental context switch. And just imagine 10,000 plus milliseconds, the user, as soon as they experience that, they are going to say, you know what, I'll come back to this website. And unfortunately for most people, they might never come back to that particular website. So those are the 2 metrics. Now, the next metric, which is widely known as the core web metrics, is the breakdown of what we call the largest contentful paint, or the LCP, the first input delay, which is the FID, and then finally the cumulative layout shift. Now, let's quickly try and understand what each of these is. So for the LCP, what it's basically saying is that it's measuring it's a user-centric metric that's measuring the perceived load speed. Okay, because it sort of marks the point in the page load timeline when the page's main content has likely loaded, and it helps reassure the user that the page is useful, that okay, wait along, the content is going to load pretty soon. Now we also have okay, so for the LCP, the measurement is within 2.5 seconds and less is considered to be good. So that's to say that you if your users come onto your website and the largest contentful paint, or the first thing that loads on the website comes from anywhere before 2.5 seconds, your user is going to see it to be normal. But if they see it within 2.5 to 4.0 seconds, then they are going to think, okay, this needs improvement, or there's more work to be done. But if it goes beyond 4 seconds, then they are going to say this is poor performance outright. For first input delay, it's basically measuring the time from when your user first interacts with your site. When they click on a link, when they tap on a button, or basically when they use any JavaScript powered control, to when the browser actually responds to that interaction. So for instance, if your user was filling a form and they click submit, how long it takes till they actually get that confirmation of success or failure, it all falls under the first input delay. And according to the core web metrics, you're saying that any moment that is beyond 1/10 of a second is considered as needs improvement, which means that when a user fills your form or interacts with your form in any way, in less than 1/10 of a second, you should give them confirmation on what has happened. Is their submission successful? Is it not? Let them know something, right? And the final point, um, which is the CLS, if I don't know if you've ever been on a website and you've suddenly realized that there has been a rearrangement, of the components of the website. Like you had an image here, some text here, and all of a sudden, as you scroll, things just begin to shift to different sites. So that's what we classify under the cumulative layout shift. And it's important because visual stability also helps users to quantify how their experience is generally on the website. Now, Ophelia, you've said all these things, all these metrics, all these stats, blah blah. Now just tell us, how can we improve the web performance? So in this section of the talk, we are basically going to look at, from all that we have seen, how we can then go ahead to make the desired changes. And we are going to look at three main pointers. We are going to look at using the Chrome Dev Tools, specifically Lighthouse, to audit the web application's performance. We are going to look at optimizing sizes of assets, and then we are also going to look at removing unnecessary content. Now, this slide is basically what most of us, I'm sure, have been waiting for since I started the talk. And is pointing 5 main tips for improving the web performance of any web application. Now we have optimizing asset sizes, lazy loading, deleting unused resources, we have browser caching, and then minifying code. So when we talk about loading large content, okay, loading images that are large, videos, plugins, and generally heavy assets can cause your web application to load slowly, especially for users with poor internet connectivity. And this is very important because when we are developing our web applications, we have to bear in mind that not all our users have the same internet connectivity. Okay, that there are some in areas with very high internet connectivity, and there are some with internet connectivity that are very poor, but all they all expect, to access the web application equally. So the way that you can help all these users at the same time is to make sure that you are using images that are not heavy, resources, assets in general that are not heavy. And even though we know that right now plugins provide extra functionality, some of them can be very heavy. Okay, and loading them can slow your application. So to fix that, you can set a target to use minimized versions or compressed assets, or assets with very small sizes, so that your websites can load quickly. We can also apply lazy loading. Okay, so lazy loading basically is setting your web application to load non-critical resources at the exact time of need. So basically, when your user comes onto the site and then they are scrolling through the site, you can hold off loading resources that are not in their view at the moment. Okay, so for instance, if the user gets onto your website, they are on the hero section of the website, you can hold on with loading the images at the about us section or the images at the portfolio section till the user actually gets there. Because what if the user doesn't get there? Then you put in resources to load those assets, and slow the, how do you call it, slow the experience for the user for a section that they might actually not get to. Now, the next point is browser caching. So basically, this explains a situation where the browser stores some resources for web applications in its local storage, so that when users visit the web applications several times, it can quickly load. It can quickly load the website and then its resources. And this is advisable not to do this for web applications that have assets that change over time, so that it causes any caching issues. Now, the next point is minifying code. Okay, there are a number of steps you can use this. If you're using Webpack for build process, you can make use of the Uglify.js plugin, basically to avoid, you can also avoid inline or embedded code for both CSS and JS in your HTML, as well as positioning your external links such as CSS links in the head of the HTML file and then JS at the end of the body. Finally, removing unnecessary content in the form of unused or commented assets can also contribute in making sure that your website is loading quickly. Some other um, pointers include reducing the number of HTTP requests, writing mobile first code, and async loading with JS. Now, let's get practical. I'm sure that the theory aspect of the presentation has been well understood. So to avoid any technical glitches, I went ahead to record some of the practical aspects of this presentation. And basically what we are going to do is we're going to use my portfolio website, the link for which you can see on the screen. And we are going to make some changes to improve the application. So let's get to it. Now, before we start that, okay, so Stephanie just posted the link to my portfolio website in the chat, so you can basically check it out later and understand the process that we went through. So let's talk about Lighthouse for a minute. So Lighthouse is an open source automated tool that is used popularly for improving the quality of web pages. And you can find it on the Chrome Dev Tools, and you can also find it as a Chrome browser extension. So basically, the GIF that you see loading on the screen is me showing how to access Lighthouse. So how you do it is, on Mac you do Command Shift I, on Windows Control Shift I, or you can simply right click and then select Inspect from the list of options, and then go to your DevTools. Now on the DevTools, you look at the title bar, and then you click the arrow that reviews more options, and then you select Lighthouse. And you can also install the Lighthouse extension for Chrome. And when you are using Lighthouse, it's advisable that you use it in incognito, so that your Chrome extensions do not interfere with Lighthouse. Now let's look at a walkthrough of Lighthouse. So Lighthouse had four main sections. We have the audit section, we have the metrics sections, we have the opportunities, and the diagnosis section. So for the audit section, basically that's the section that displays the overall score of the website's performance, and it does this out of 100, and it uses a color code that reflects the range. So for the metrics aspect, it also breaks down the time estimates for the core web metrics, which is the first contentful paint, the speed index, the time to interact, the largest contentful paint, and so forth. And then finally, we have the opportunities and then the diagnostics. And so for this aspect, basically, Lighthouse gives you suggestions on what can be done to result in some estimated savings that improve the performance score of your web applications. Now, let's do a performance audit of my website, as I said. So, when you go to whatever website you want to use, first of all, as I said, you are supposed to test in incognito, and you are also supposed to simulate throttling, and you are supposed to select performance from the list of categories and then select device you are testing for. So let's break this down. Um, Within Lighthouse, before you perform any audit, you'd have to make sure that your selections, you have to make sure that you selected simulated throttling, and you also have to make sure that you select performance from the list under categories. And so, as you can see from the GIF, on the black aspect, the black side, you can see device, where you can select mobile or desktop. You can also see categories, where you can select performance, accessibility, SEO, progressive website, etc. So basically, for performance sake and for purpose of this presentation, we are choosing performance. So that's how you can see that performance is toggled on. Now, once you've selected everything that you want to select, you see that there's a button that says Analyze Page Load. So you click on that button, and then you wait for Lighthouse to load the performance of your web application, basically to audit it and give you a performance score. So for my web application, as you can see, I initially got the score of 80%. I think that's in the next slide. But before that, I want to draw our attention to the opportunity section. So you can see the left image on the screen currently is the opportunity section that shows what Lighthouse is recommending that I can do to reduce the load time on my website. Now, based on the opportunity recommendation, I went ahead. So on the right side, the GIF on the right side is basically showing the changes that I did. So in my case, I was using an avatar component from Chakra to load the image on my website. But then, as you can see, Lighthouse was suggesting to me that instead of using the avatar component, I should use, because my website is built with Next.js, I should use the image tag from Next and set the priority to true. So I did that, and from there, you can see that the before and after of my web performance optimization. So after making the recommended changes, I saved and deployed before running another audit. And after running that second audit, you can see here that it significantly improved the performance of my website. So it basically improved my FCP from 1.4 seconds to 0.5 seconds. It improved my time to interactive from 1.8 to 0.5. It improved my largest contentful paint from 1.5 seconds to 0.9 seconds. And finally, the total backing time has been decreased significantly from 50 milliseconds to 0 milliseconds. And you can just imagine if with just by performing an audit, a simple audit, and making this simple tweak in your website, you can move your performance from 80 to 100%. A whooping 20% improvement. That is massive. And for the results, it would more like result in more people having a faster experience on my website. Load time will be quicker, and basically I'll get to retain more people, if they go onto my website. uh, so um so that's basically it for using Lighthouse to perform a web performance audit and then improvement or optimization. So having said that, I think that would move to the next steps. You know, after seeing all these things, now what is the way forward? Okay, um, we need as web developers to set performance goals. When we are building websites, we shouldn't just make it about the aesthetics. We should make sure that we set performance goals, and performance goals includes checking for who your users are, what devices they are using, how long your users can wait on your website. um Basically, this will let you more like avoid any future performance issues. And it's you'd agree with me that it's better to set the goals and then deal with any issues that may come up, before they actually come up. Because when a user goes onto your website and has an issue, you may not necessarily get to know that user to be able to explain to them what might have happened, and to ask them to retry at another time. Sometimes you lose a user and you lose them for life. So we set performance goals early enough. And my advice would actually be to set them at the time of planning the project. Now, the next thing is setting performance goals and even optimizing is not enough. We have to make a conscious effort to measure, optimize, and monitor periodically. So conduct user tests, not just Lighthouse. Don't limit it to Lighthouse, audit. Go ahead and then get your actual users of your site to test the sites periodically and give you feedback. And you can also rely on QA, in-house, to perform tests and give you feedback, so that at any point, if you see that there's anything that is not working well, you can improve that before it reflects at your user's end. So this brings us to the end of my talk, and I would take any questions that anybody has for me now.
Yeah, thank you so much for your talk, Ophelia. It was such a great talk, and I think like folks learned a lot. And thank you so much for such interactive gifs as well. I think like it made the presentation all the more fun. So thank you. I think there are a few questions here already. Is there any recommendable tool for handling the backend HTTP requests efficiently?
Okay, so so basically for HTTP requests, the recommended, I would say, is to use Axios. You know, to you can generally use async await to more like create effective HTTP requests. But there's a tool called Axios that you can also use to handle your requests as well.
Awesome, thank you. And Daniela has a question. Are there any similar tools in Firefox or just for Chrome?
Yes, thank you, Daniela. So for Lighthouse, the recommended browser to use is Chrome, and because being basically backed by Google, most of the features are easily available when if you are using the Chrome browser. So I'd recommend highly that you use Chrome, the Chrome browser, if you want to use Lighthouse to perform your performance audits for your website.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that. And I guess we have one question from Miss Crystal. She will this be recorded or and shared so I can rewatch later. So I think like not to worry. We do put it up on YouTube. It will put up in the next week or in next few days. It's just check out our YouTube channel and make sure you're subscribed there so that you can check out the videos later. And there's another question for you, Ophelia. Is there a tool that we can measure or check our website performance, such as loading time or interaction delay?
Right. Yes. So the recommended tool, as I mentioned, is Lighthouse, and Lighthouse can be found in the Chrome DevTools, or you can also install it as a browser extension on Chrome. Any of them, I'd say that any side of it works for performance audits. And as I showed in some of the slides, you can check, like when you perform an audit, you'll be able to, Lighthouse will break um, the points down for you and show you the load time, the interaction time, and all that. So you can easily check how long your assets are taking to load, how long it actually took before the first item on your website was shown to your user, and so forth.
Awesome. I think we have one interesting question. How does accessibility impact performance?
Okay, thanks for that. So basically, um, I would I'll say that accessibility and performance go hand in hand. Okay, because if the website is not accessible enough in the user's mind, there there are a lot of users that would not attribute it to accessibility. In their mind, this website doesn't perform as it's supposed to be, or it doesn't work as it's supposed to be. So I'll say that accessibility and performance actually go hand in hand, because if your website is not accessible, the user will not have a good user experience on the website. And the ripple effect of that is that they would in effect brand the website as not performing as it should. So that's how accessibility impacts performance.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a really well rounded answer. Thank you so much. And the next question is there a tutorial resource, course, etc., that you would find helpful to teach you the basics of a walkthrough into sites that improve performance so you can move uh, into more deep diving?
Right. Right. So basically, I think that Google is trying to push web performance a lot. So you can find a performance course actually on web.dev, which is Google's web tutorial platform. You can also find a lot of insightful articles on Free Code Camp. You can find a performance tutorial on MDN Web Docs. So basically, just going to Google and type in web performance tutorials. There will be a lot of um, search results that come. So just look out for MDN Web Docs, Free Code Camp articles, web.dev, sorry, and these would all take you to mainly from the beginning level to maybe I'd say intermediate level in web performance. Yes, please.
Yeah. And before I take the next question, Ophelia, you have a lot of amazing comments coming in. Hopefully, you can see the comments there, and it's amazing. And a lot of people loved your talk. So
Thank
thank
you
you so
so
much for it.
much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and here is another question. What are the parameters to assess the website? And is there a tool which helps in assessing the web page?
Um, sorry, I'm not sure that I get the question, but let me try and see parameters to access the website. So, what website? If
I mean, you can talk about it in general as well. Maybe that's something that you've already covered.
yes,
Any
yes,
parameter? Yeah.
yes. I think that it's something that I covered. So basically, under the let me quickly go to that part of my slide. So under the metrics, so real perception reaction times, and then the core web metrics, which entails the largest contentful paint, the first input delay, and the cumulative layout shift. So these are all metrics that you can specifically more like target to improve on. Yes. So I hope that that answers the question. The question was not quite clear, but these are
Yeah.
the general metrics. Yes, these are the general metrics for measuring performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like it was a general question, so
Okay.
yeah, the answer sits perfectly. So the next question we have is: are there any automated accessibility checkers?
Yes. Um, the I think that I try to stay away from that in my talk because I didn't want to sort of promote any tool above, the other because I haven't tested all tools.
Mm-hmm.
What Yes, I try to focus on the one that's generally I'd say recommended, which is the Lighthouse, but there are a lot of accessibility checkers out there automated, so you can test some out, try and see whichever one works for you, but the one that is generally um accepted, or the one that's generally tried and tested, is Lighthouse.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ophelia. And yeah,
Yes,
again, like, I really want to thank you for, doing such an amazing talk. And people
thank you
here
so
learned so
much.
much and loved it. So please do go back and look at the comments if possible. And, everyone who, joined in today to keep in touch with Ophelia and,
Yes,
just
please.
follow her to make sure to look at her amazing work as well.
Yes. So I tried to. I think I shared my Twitter and my GitHub. Here is Boamah. So you can reach out to me. I'm happy to, like to talk more on this. I'm basically mostly talking about performance, web performance, and accessibility. So reach out and then we can take it from there. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you so much for taking out the time for giving this talk. And thank you so much to everyone who attended today as well and took out the time. Yeah, I hope you attend all the other lovely sessions that are there on Connect as well, and maybe have a chance to network with Ophelia too. So, yeah,
That's true.
hope everyone has a fantastic day ahead, including you, Ophelia. And yeah,
Thank you so
um,
much.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Achana. Bye.